There's a substance, it's free, it's legal, it's available almost everywhere on Earth. And it's so powerful that just a few minutes of exposure can change the chemistry of your brain, alter the rhythm of your heart, rewire your mood, sharpen your memory, regulate your hormones, and even influence how long you live. If a pharmaceutical company invented this compound tomorrow, it would be the most valuable drug in human history. Doctors would prescribe it for depression, for insomnia, for high blood pressure, for diabetes, for chronic pain. Wellness influencers would build empires around it. Governments would tax it. But here's the strange part. It already exists. It has existed for 4.5 billion years. And most of us, in our modern lives of glass windows, fluorescent ceilings, and glowing screens, are walking through life severely deficient in it. I'm talking about sunlight. And before you roll your eyes and think, sunlight, really? That's the big secret? Stay with me. Because what scientists have uncovered in the last 2 decades about what sunlight actually does to the human body would have sounded like superstition 50 years ago. We are only just beginning to understand that we are not simply creatures who live in sunlight. We are creatures who are quite literally built out of it. Every cell in your body is listening for it. Every gland is waiting for it. Your brain, your bones, your blood, all of them speak its language. So today, I want to take you on a journey into the most underrated, misunderstood, and quietly miraculous force in your daily life. By the end of this, I promise you'll never look at a sunrise the same way again. Let's start with a question that sounds simple but isn't. Why do we wake up? Not philosophically, biologically. What actually pulls you out of unconsciousness every morning? Most people would say, my alarm clock. But your alarm clock is only about 150 years old. Humans have been waking up for roughly 300,000 years. So what was waking us up before Thomas Edison and the snooze button? The answer is the sun. For nearly the entire span of human existence, our ancestors lived in what scientists now call a photic environment. Their lives were synchronized to the rising and falling of light. When the sun came up, hormones flooded their bloodstream, telling their body it was time to hunt, to gather, to build, to socialize. When the sun went down, a different cascade began. Melatonin rose, body temperature dropped, the brain prepared for repair. This wasn't a lifestyle choice. This was a contract, a 4-billion-year-old contract written into our DNA by evolution itself. And like any contract, it has terms. Break the terms, and there are consequences. Now here's where it gets unsettling. The average modern human spends about 93% of their life indoors. Think about that. If you live to 80, that means roughly 74 of those years will be spent under artificial light, behind walls, separated from the very force that designed your biology. We are, in a very real sense, the first generation of humans to live in chronic photic deprivation, and our bodies are noticing. They're noticing in ways that show up as anxiety, as fatigue, as insomnia, as weight gain, as depression, as autoimmune flare-ups, as a strange, low-grade sense that something is missing. Even when everything on paper looks fine, something is missing. And it's been missing for so long that we've forgotten what it even feels like to have it. Here's something they probably never taught you in school. Your eyes are not just cameras. They're not just there to let you see the world. Hidden in the back of your retina, behind the cells that detect color and shape, is a special class of cells discovered only in the early 2000s. They're called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, or IBRGCs. These cells don't help you see. They have a different job entirely. They are sun sensors. Their only purpose is to detect a specific kind of light, particularly the blue-rich, full-spectrum light of the morning sky, and send a signal directly to a tiny cluster of neurons in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This is your master clock, the conductor of an orchestra of about 100 trillion cellular clocks ticking inside every organ, every tissue, every cell in your body. When morning sunlight hits those IBRGCs, the master clock essentially goes, it's morning. Begin the symphony. Cortisol rises sharply, not the bad, stressed-out cortisol everyone fears, but a clean, energizing pulse that wakes you up, sharpens your focus, primes your immune system. Dopamine begins to flow. Serotonin gets manufactured in the gut and the brain. Body temperature climbs. digestion fires up, metabolism shifts gears, and critically, a timer starts, a 14 to 16-hour countdown until melatonin, the sleep hormone, will be released. The morning sun, in other words, doesn't just wake you up today, it tells your brain when to put you to sleep tonight. This is why people who get bright outdoor light in the first hour of waking report falling asleep faster, sleeping more deeply, and waking up more refreshed. It's not magic, it's the contract. You showed up to the morning, so the night shows up for you, but here's what's wild. The light from your bedroom lamp, your kitchen ceiling, your phone screen, all of these feel bright to your conscious mind. But to your IBRGCs, they're practically invisible. A cloudy day outside contains around 10,000 to 20,000 lux of light. A well-lit indoor room contains maybe 300 to 500 lux. The difference isn't subtle. It's 100-fold, 1,000-fold. You can sit by a window all day, and your sun sensors will register it as perpetual twilight, which is, biologically speaking, exactly what depression looks like from the inside. Now let's go below the eyes. Let's talk about your skin. Your skin is the largest organ in your body. It's not just a wrapper. It's not just a barrier. It's a chemical laboratory of staggering complexity, and one of its most remarkable abilities is something almost no other creature can do at this scale. Your skin manufactures hormones from sunlight. When ultraviolet B rays, the shorter, more energetic kind, strike a molecule of cholesterol sitting just beneath the surface of your skin, that molecule is physically transformed. Its structure cracks open and rearranges itself into something the body then converts, in 2 steps, into a powerful steroid hormone. We call this hormone vitamin D, which is, frankly, one of the worst names in the history of science. Because it's not really a vitamin. Vitamins are nutrients you get from food. This is something far more interesting. It's a hormone, a signaling molecule, a master regulator that influences the activity of more than 1,000 of your genes, somewhere between 5 and 10% of your entire genome. Read that again. Sunlight, falling on your bare skin, triggers the production of a substance that turns on and off thousands of genes throughout your body. Genes involved in immune function, in bone growth, in cardiovascular health, in mood regulation, in cancer suppression, in muscle repair. And this is just one of the substances your skin makes from light. There's also nitric oxide. When sunlight hits your skin, stores of nitric oxide in your bloodstream are released, causing your blood vessels to relax and widen. Your blood pressure drops. Your heart works less hard. Your circulation improves. Studies have shown this effect is so reliable that even a 20-minute walk in midday sun can produce measurable cardiovascular benefits independent of the exercise itself. There's beta-endorphin, your body's natural opioid, produced by skin cells under UV exposure, contributing to that mellow, content feeling you get after a sunny afternoon outside. There are signaling molecules that influence the gut microbiome, even though no light reaches your intestines directly. There are regulatory effects on your circadian-bound immune cells. There's even evidence that certain wavelengths penetrate deep enough to affect the mitochondria, the energy factories, inside your cells, helping them produce ATP more efficiently. Your skin is not just exposed to light. Your skin eats light. It transforms photons into hormones, into mood, into energy, into health. And every minute you spend, covered head to toe under fluorescent bulbs, is a minute that solar panel is sitting idle. Let's talk about something deeply personal now. Let's talk about why sunlight makes you feel good. You felt it. Everyone has. That moment when you step outside on a bright day after being cooped up indoors, and within a few minutes, something inside you exhales. The world looks more vivid. Your shoulders drop. A small smile pulls at the corner of your mouth, almost involuntarily. You feel, and it's the only word that fits, better. For a long time, scientists assumed this was psychological, a pleasant association. Sunny days remind us of vacations and childhoods and freedom. But the truth turns out to be much more chemical than that. There's a molecule in your brain called serotonin. You may have heard of it. It's often called the happiness chemical, though that's a simplification. Serotonin is more like the orchestra conductor of mood. When it's plentiful and balanced, you feel calm, content, focused, and emotionally resilient. When it's depleted, the world starts to look gray. Motivation evaporates. Anxiety creeps in. Sleep gets weird. Food tastes flat. Researchers have done a fascinating experiment many times now. They measure serotonin levels in human blood across different conditions, different seasons, different weather, different times of day. The results are almost shockingly consistent. Serotonin production in the brain is directly proportional to the amount of bright light a person was exposed to that day. The brighter the day, the more serotonin. The darker the day, the less. This is one of the reasons seasonal affective disorder exists. That strange winter heaviness that descends on millions of people when the days get short. It's not weakness. It's not all in your head in the dismissive sense. It's a measurable, biochemical reality. The sun is a serotonin factory, and when the factory closes for the winter, the inventory runs low. But it's not just serotonin. Sunlight on the eyes appears to boost dopamine, the chemistry of motivation, drive, and forward momentum. Some recent research even suggests that long-term lack of bright outdoor light may contribute to dopamine dysregulation in conditions ranging from ADHD to certain forms of nearsightedness. Yes, myopia. Children who play outdoors more, in bright natural light, develop dramatically less nearsightedness than children who don't, regardless of how much screen time or reading they do. The sun, it turns out, helps shape the very structure of the developing eye. So when you feel that lift, that softening, that quiet joy after stepping outside, you're not imagining it, you're experiencing pharmacology. Real, biochemical, measurable pharmacology. Except the doses delivered by a 93 million mile distant nuclear reactor, and the prescription is free. Now, I have to pause here, because I can almost hear someone shouting at the screen. But what about skin cancer? What about aging? Aren't we supposed to avoid the sun? This is where the story gets complicated and honest. For the past 40 or 50 years, public health messaging about the sun has been dominated by a single idea. The sun is dangerous. Cover up, slather on sunscreen, stay in the shade. And there's truth in that. Sunburn is real, skin damage is real. Certain skin cancers are absolutely linked to excessive UV exposure, and people with very fair skin or family histories of melanoma do need to be especially careful. But somewhere along the way, the message got distorted into something close to all sunlight, in all amounts, is harmful, and that, increasingly, is being recognized as not just wrong, but possibly catastrophic for public health. Consider this. A landmark Swedish study followed nearly 30,000 women for 20 years and found that those who avoided the sun had mortality rates roughly comparable to smokers. Let that sink in. Sun avoidance, in this study, was associated with a similar reduction in life expectancy as smoking. Other studies have linked low sun exposure to increased risk of cardiovascular disease, certain cancers, multiple sclerosis, osteoporosis, depression, and metabolic syndrome. The reality is that the human body, like everything in nature, lives by a principle of dose. Water is essential, but you can drown. Food is essential, but you can overeat. Exercise is essential, but you can overeat. Exercise is essential, but you can break yourself. And sunlight is no different. The villain isn't the sun. The villain is the pattern. The modern pattern of pale, indoor-dwelling skin getting suddenly blasted with intense, unaccustomed UV during a 2-week beach vacation, then locked away again. That's the pattern that causes burns and damage, not the daily, gradual, sensible exposure our ancestors lived under for hundreds of thousands of years. The goal isn't to maximize sunlight or to fear it. The goal is to re-establish the contract, a little often. Skin getting acquainted with the sun gradually, building up natural protection, eyes catching the morning light without sunglasses, lunch eaten outside rather than under flickering bulbs, a walk before sunset to bookend the day. This isn't radical, this is just being a human, the way humans have always been, until very recently. Here's something that very few people realize, and I think it's one of the most beautiful pieces of this whole story. Sunlight isn't just light. Sunlight is a symphony. When you look at a sunbeam, what your eyes register is the visible spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. But that visible band is only a tiny sliver of what the sun is actually delivering to your skin and to your eyes. Sunlight contains ultraviolet light at the high energy end. It contains a vast amount of infrared light at the lower energy end. It contains near-infrared, far-infrared, deep red wavelengths, and a continuous, balanced rainbow in between. Each of these wavelengths does different things to your body. Ultraviolet B makes vitamin D. Ultraviolet A regulates nitric oxide and immune signaling. Blue light in the morning sets your circadian clock. Red and near-infrared light, which make up about 40 to 50% of natural sunlight, penetrate deep into tissues and appear to stimulate your mitochondria, helping cells produce energy more efficiently and recover from stress. There's even emerging research suggesting that near-infrared light may protect the eyes from damage caused by exposure to bright blue light. Now think about what artificial lighting actually looks like, spectrally. An LED ceiling bulb, a phone screen, a fluorescent tube. These emit a sharp, narrow spike of blue and a thin smear across the visible range. They contain almost no ultraviolet. They contain almost no infrared. They are spectrally empty compared to sunlight, like trying to live on a single nutrient and calling it food. When you spend your day under indoor lighting, you're not just getting less light. You're getting an entirely different kind of light, a truncated, impoverished, biologically incomplete version of the thing your cells evolved to expect. It's the equivalent of listening to a symphony where 90% of the instruments have been removed and only one violin is playing, loudly, in a single key, all day long. Is it any wonder our bodies, listening for the full symphony, get confused? So what do we do with all of this? I want to be careful here, because the last thing I want to do is hand you a checklist or a 10-step program. The point of this isn't to optimize your light hygiene the way some people optimize their supplement stacks. The point is something deeper. The point is to remember that you are not fundamentally an indoor creature. You are not designed for the box you spend most of your day in. You are not built for the screens you stare at, the ceilings you sit beneath, the four walls that surround you. Those things are wonderful, and they are part of modern life, and there's no going back from them. But they cannot be the only environment your body knows. They cannot replace the original. Step outside in the morning, even for 5 minutes before your day begins. Don't look at the sun directly, never that, but let the open sky fill your peripheral vision. Let those IPR-GCs do their ancient work. Drink the morning in. Eat a meal outdoors when you can. Take meetings on a walk. Let your forearms see the sky a few times a week. When the light gets long and golden in the late afternoon, notice it. Step into it for a moment if you can. These aren't acts of wellness. These are acts of remembrance. You are reminding your body who it is. You are honoring the contract that built you. And something funny happens when you do this consistently for a few weeks. People report it again and again. Sleep improves first. Almost always sleep first. Then mood. Then energy. Then the strange ambient anxiety that so many of us carry begins to soften, like a clenched fist slowly opening. Cravings shift. Skin clears. Focus returns. Not because sunlight is a miracle drug, but because the absence of it was costing you more than you ever realized. I want to leave you with one last thought. Every photon of sunlight that reaches your skin right now, every single one, left the surface of the sun about 8 minutes ago. Before that, it spent somewhere between 100,000 and several million years bouncing around inside the sun's core, slowly working its way out. Which means that the light warming your face today began its journey before human civilization existed, before written language, before agriculture, before the wheel. That ancient light is now striking a molecule of cholesterol in your skin and turning it into a hormone that will travel through your bloodstream, enter the nucleus of your cells, and tell your genes how to behave for the next several days. You are not separate from the universe. You are not standing outside of it looking in. You are a chemical conversation between a star and a planet, and that conversation has been going on, without interruption, for as long as life has existed on Earth. The next time you feel the sun on your skin, whether you're walking to your car, sitting in a park, standing at a window, pause for just a second, notice it. Realize that something nearly 4.5 billion years old is touching you, feeding you, speaking to you in the same chemical language it has spoken to every living thing that has ever existed. We called it a drug at the start of this video, but that was wrong in a way, A drug is something you take, something foreign, something synthesized in a lab. The sun isn't a drug. The sun is the language your body was written in. And once you remember how to listen, really listen, you may find that a great deal of what you thought was wrong with you was simply the sound of a creature that had forgotten where it came from. Step outside tomorrow morning. Just for a few minutes. See what your body remembers. I'll see you in the next one.